So there's this thing that happens when you're really good at something. Everyone around you starts telling you to be humble, and you pick up really fast what that actually means because you begin to see it in your life. So, for example, the energy shifts in the room when someone is too confident. People start to get weird and uncomfortable when someone shares one of their achievements or they're really excited about something that they accomplished. And this is even so when someone isn't too loud about their accomplishments. They're not arrogant, they're not loud, they're just sure of themselves. And overall, the room gets quiet, people get uncomfortable, or someone says something rude to bring their energy down, to bring their confidence down. As I watch these things over and over again and the things that I witness, I learned to make myself smaller. I learned to stay quiet. I learned to not let my confidence show. I learned to not be excited about my achievements that I've made that I worked really hard for. And I did that so well for so long that people would call being humble my best quality. People would literally tell me that. And I want y'all to know I'm not just saying this, I'm not just speaking out of my ass because I played college softball. I got freshman of the year for my conference. I got Golden Glove when I was a senior and I held records there. So I want you to know that I'm not just speaking out of my ass. And with all those records and with all those good things, I still couldn't let myself feel any of it just because I was told throughout my whole life to be humble and that it was bad to be confident. It was bad to show excitement around your achievements. And honestly, it got to a point where nobody even had to say it anymore. Nobody had to tell me to be humble or to dial it down anymore. If something good happened, I immediately downplayed it. Someone complimented me, I immediately brushed it off just because that's what I was taught as a young kid. Or I achieved something real and I immediately moved on from it. And looking back, I was doing all of these things because I thought that this was what discipline was. I thought that this was what humility was. I thought that this is what being humble was. And I thought that this is what mentally tough people did, is that they didn't acknowledge themselves. They didn't come off as overly confident because they were seen as cocky. This is definitely not what was happening with me. I was totally making myself smaller. Honestly, it's not even subtle sometimes. I was watching this interview recently of someone getting drafted into the WNBA. They were coming off as very confident, not cocky at all. They were answering the question confidently and normally, and watch what happens.
Yeah, I think I have the highest IQ as a guard, and my feel for the game is unmatched. So I'm just sorry, I didn't mean that, but I did not mean that in a harmful way. But just the way that I play and the way that I flow with the game, I feel like I can add to the team really well.
Okay, Lindsay Whalen's going to be your coach. She'll decide if you have that flair.
Looking at that clip, she didn't say anything crazy. She wasn't cocky. She was very sure of herself, which she should be. You know, she's a great player. And that interviewer immediately came in. She shut her down for being overly confident. She softened it. And watching that, I immediately knew because of things like that is why I made myself smaller my whole entire life. It's really sad. I relate to that because I felt that my whole entire life, my whole entire collegiate athlete career, where I could feel the energy change. I could feel someone uncomfortable if you show any sign of confidence. So immediately I would always make myself smaller just because of things like that. And, you know, I stopped giving people a reason to make me feel that way so I wouldn't come off as confident in general. Because I was like, okay, that's my solution, I guess. There was this one game I hit a grand slam and I was rounding the bases, and immediately the first thing I thought of before even being proud of myself, before even being excited, I immediately thought to myself, okay, don't make this a big deal because you don't want to make anyone else uncomfortable. Dude, that is so sad. Like, why did I do that to myself? I should have been excited. I should have been prancing around the bases, so excited. I just hit a grand fucking slam, you know? And looking back at the time, I thought that was the right thing to do. Don't be too excited. Be humble. When I was making myself small, acting like a grand slam wasn't a big deal. And it's so sad. I just decided before I even crossed home plate that this wasn't a big deal because that's what being humble meant. Nobody asked me to do that. Nobody asked me to be nonchalant. That's just something that I learned throughout my life. And I had a lot of achievements, things that I did, was good at sports. And I got so good at being nonchalant that that was my immediate reaction to not let anyone shut me down because I was too excited. So I immediately made myself smaller. But then flash forward, so there was actually this one coach who he pulled me aside one day and he asked me, who do you think the best three players on the team are? So I named three other players who weren't myself. And he saw me mid-track. He was like, why aren't you listing yourself as one of those players? And I told him, I don't want to come off as too cocky. I learned not to do that. And he was like, that's not being cocky. That's being confident. And he totally just changed my brain chemistry right then and there. Honestly, when he said that to me, I just stood there because that was the first time in my whole life that someone clearly made the line of the difference between being cocky and being confident. I didn't know the difference because you can be confident and be humble, but I still don't think we should shove being humble down people's throats, especially if being humble is making yourself smaller. So that's why I don't believe in that anymore. And when he said that to me, that just made it click in my mind. And then so not too long ago, I actually went back to my alumni game in college where they bring back all the alumni and we get recognized before the game. We get to watch the current players play. And as I'm sitting there watching for the very first time, I'm realizing how much we actually did in college. We were waking up early, mornings that nobody saw. We had two-a-days. We would go to practice, then to class, then back to practice or weights, whatever it was. And I was realizing how much that actually was. And I never gave myself credit for that. I never let myself feel confidence for that because of how much we actually did. I went about my life being so nonchalant about, oh, I'm a college athlete, whatever. But turns out only 6 to 7% of high school athletes actually make it to the collegiate level. That's a big fucking deal. That's such a big deal. And now being at that alumni game brought so much confidence back in me because I'm like, damn, we did that shit. We were really out there doing the most, you know? And it's so sad to me because I had spent years being so nonchalant about that just because of trying to be humble and treating all that like it was just something that happened to me, not something that I actually earned myself. And being at that alumni game, as I was standing there, I finally understood what I had done. I wasn't just downplaying myself and making myself smaller to make other people comfortable, but I had actually convinced myself that what I have done with my career, in my life and everything wasn't a big deal because I made myself smaller over and over again. Doing that made it almost ingrained into me. Everything I had done wasn't a big deal. It was almost like the humility stopped being a performance, and at some point it literally just became what I believed. If you're watching this and if you're good at something, don't do that. Be proud of yourself. Be confident, you're great, you can wear confidence on your sleeve. If other people are uncomfortable about your greatness, then that sounds like a personal problem for them, genuinely. And it sounds like they need to be going to practice more. So don't let other people make you feel the need to make yourself smaller. And it's so sad because what it cost me overall is I eventually had lost track of my achievements. I had lost track of what I've actually built for myself. When things got hard in my life and I needed to reach back on the achievements I had made, I didn't know what to think of because I had spent so much of my life making myself feel smaller for the comfort of others. I had spent years making sure none of it counted, making sure I was so nonchalant about it. And honestly, if you're watching this, I feel like I'm not the only one who has done this. Let me know down in the comments if you have done this yourself, and let me know something that you've done recently that you're really proud of yourself because you deserve to feel proud of yourself. You deserve to wear confidence on your sleeve. Maybe it's at work or at school. Maybe you just passed a test that you studied your ass off for. You should be proud of yourself. You should be confident. Now you know that knowledge that was so hard or difficult to learn. Or maybe you just ran a 5K and it was the first time that you've ever done that in your life. That's fucking sick. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Just something that you genuinely worked hard for, something that you're proud of, or something that you're confident for, something that you didn't let yourself feel it. Not because that you weren't proud of it, not because that you didn't care, but because somewhere along the way you learned that feeling it out loud was too much. And so you deflected, you minimized, you moved on too fast, and everyone around you probably thought, wow, they're so level-headed, and maybe gave you a compliment for it too. And maybe part of you liked that. And maybe you've been doing that long enough now that you're not even sure of what to be proud of anymore. I'm not saying go out and be cocky or arrogant or anything. And if you want to, I mean, that's cool too. You do you. But I do think about that coach a lot who drew the line for me between being cocky and being confident. I think about that so much because I wish earlier in my life someone would have drew the line for me so I could keep being confident and stop making myself smaller for the comfort of other people. You know, if you know that you're good at something, you're great at something, or if you're the fucking good at something, you should act like it. And if it makes other people uncomfortable, then that's on them. You should be proud of what you've done. And don't make yourself smaller thinking it's the right thing just because other people are applauding it, when deep down you know how great you are, you know how amazing you are. You can wear confidence on your sleeve. Don't make yourself smaller and disguise it as humility or being humble because you're gonna regret that years later. And looking back, I wasn't being humble. I was making myself slowly disappear, just quiet overall. And the saddest part is that I believed them. And it's not just about a feeling either. Studies show that confident people are more likely to be recognized, they're more likely to be remembered, and they're more likely to be chosen for opportunities, for leadership, even if they have the same talent as someone who isn't as confident as them. So if you think you're talented, but you keep making yourself small, if you think that you're getting overlooked, try looking at the way that you carry yourself, try looking at your confidence, and you might see a change.